Namaste and welcome to React Bits. In this series of tutorials, we are going to create an starter for Flutter and Appwrite project. So this starter will have basic implementation to get us started with any projects that we want to create with Flutter and Appwrite. If you do not know what Appwrite is, please follow along with my Appwrite introduction tutorial series. The link is provided here and in the description below. In the starter application, we will implement few functionalities like authentication, state management, and we'll also make our application localization ready, and we'll also implement some simple user profile features, and we'll save the details of users like user's device and the version of our application the user is using, so that if user reports any error, it will be easier for us to resolve. In the first part, however, we'll set up few things like we'll create our Flutter project, we'll create the basic folder structure that we'll be following, we'll add the required dependencies, and then we'll set up localization. So let us get started. In the VS Code, I can simply open the command panel using Ctrl+Shift+P, and then I can use the Flutter command, project, new application project. Okay, and I can save it. So let's call it Appwrite Starter. It's creating our project. So our Flutter project is ready. First thing first, let us set up our pubspec.yaml with the dependencies. First, let us remove these comments. Remove all comments. So I'm using a VS Code extension called remove comments to remove all the comments at once. Someone from the community suggested me, and thank you for that. It's awesome. So let's remove this. Okay. Let's set up dependencies. Again, for setting up dependencies, I'm using pub spec helper extension in the VS Code. You can search for it. Let's add dependencies. So pub-spec assist is the package extension for VS Code. Add update dependencies. First will be Appwrite, then device info plus package info plus Flutter river pod, Flutter SVG, Flutter swiper, Google Fonts, image speaker, Intel, and finally for localization, SDK Flutter. We'll also learn to use dependency overrides. So if we run flutter pub-get or tapping this button here right now, we'll run into an error. That is because we have some dependency conflict, and this conflict is because Appwrite's current version 0.4.0 is not yet upgraded to null safety. But no worries, we already have it implemented in our GitHub. It's soon to be published. So by the time this video arrives, it might already be published. So you can directly use the newer version, or if it is not yet published, you can use the dependency override as I do here. Dependency override Appwrite. So here get, and then URL will be SDK for Flutter Git and ref feature null safety new. So this is the branch that null safety is implemented. We can use this. Now if I clear this and run pubget again, it should run successfully without any errors. See, we are overriding, but it is successful. So now we have set up our dependencies. I have added few extra dependencies like Flutter SVG and Flutter Swiper. These are because this is our starter project. We want it to have few things that we would like in our finished application. So Flutter Swiper, we can use it for making image carousels or like onboarding page, different stuff, and Flutter SVG for rendering SVG images that we can use in our application. Google Fonts for theming, image speaker for picking say user's profile image. Intel is required for localization. Device info plus and package info plus, as I said, we'll be using it to save the user's detail in the user preference, like which device and which package version the user is using. Okay, now that we have the dependencies, let us create basic folder structure for our application. So for the folder structure, I like to follow somewhat generalized or simplified version of clean code architecture. So let us create some folders. So first I'll create core folder, and inside core we'll have few folders. So here we'll have data. Again inside core we'll have service. Let me zoom in. Data, service, and then presentation. Okay, and finally resource res. So data will consist of data layer things like API service and stuff. Presentation will consist of core level widgets that are shared between the applications or state notifiers, providers, those kind of stuff. Resource will consist of like constants, callers, assets, all those kinds of things. Even routes. Service should be inside data. It will consist of things like again API service and stuff. So we have data, presentation, and resource folder in the core. Again we'll have another folder called features, and inside features, for each feature we'll have again the same structure like data, presentation, and rest. So rest is not required everywhere. Mostly we require data and presentation. So inside features we'll create a new folder called, let's say, general feature, that will consist of like home page, starter page, those kind of things. And then we can have inside general, we again have presentation and then data. Data can consist of things like models and other related stuff with data layer. So inside presentation, in the general feature, let us create yet another folders that will call pages and then also widgets. Okay, now let's set up our basic page. So here we'll have home.dart and main.file. We'll divide it into main file, and our app will be separated into app.dart. So inside, lib folder, again let us create app.dart and then main.dart, home.dart. So let's create this home page. I'll simply call it home page Appwrite Starter. Let's import material. Okay, I'll remove this everything from here. I'll call this app, and in app.dart again import m. So I'll create a material app. This is again already imported. Let's remove the main function. I call it app, and in main I'll import this app. All right, so we have the basic structure. We have imported app, we have material app. Let's call this Appwrite Starter. Home should have home page, not this scaffold. Let us now set up localization. So in order to set up localizations, we have few things, and these is by following the official localization documentation. You can find it, the link is provided in the description below. Okay, first thing, we need to pass in localization delegates and supported locales in the material app. So localization delegates, let's call it global material localizations dot delegate, and then we can even pass Cupertino and widgets localization delegate. So here and supported locales not to worry, this all will be automatically handled in a few minutes. So we need some generation stuff to do before it is handled automatically. Once we add this, we need few settings. First, in our lib folder, let's create L10N localization folder, and in here let us create our first Arb file. Okay, and Arb file is simply a JSON file. Here let's call it homepage title. Let's give it homepage. Okay, and another, for localization we need to create a config file that will call l10n.ml. It should be created in the root of our project, and here we will set up few things. arbdir leaf l10n template arb file intel en.arb output localization file Up Localizations.dart, and finally in the pubspec.ml file we need to add a config below Flutter generated true. So adding this generate true will make sure that whenever we make changes to our Arb file, the localizations are automatically generated, and first time when we build, the localizations will generate itself. In the app.dart, we can import our localization from Flutter package Flutter gen gen l10n Up Localizations.dart, and here instead of this, now we can simply use dot localization delegates and dot supported locales, and this will all be handled automatically. We can remove this import, we no longer require. Now we can also use our localized masses. So for example, instead of title we can use on generate title context. Here we can use here we have, let's add Appwrite Starter. So let us run. Try to run it in web. Let us hit F5. Once we run it, it should automatically generate our localization messages. So let me check. Up Localizations. So we already have the app name. We need to do of context dot app name. This is how we get our localized message. So we get app localizations of context, and then we call the string that we passed. So if we go to home page, here we can use something like, instead of this, and we can import this from Flutter gen. Let me simply copy paste this. Now it should have the same string that we have here, and we can support as many languages as possible by adding similar files. So we have Intel EN, we can add another for Intel, say ES or Intel FR. We can add many languages, and we can define similar structure that will automatically generate these titles that we can use. So we now have our basic application, and then we have created basic folder structure, set up dependencies, as well as localization. So the first part is over. Thank you everyone for watching this tutorial. If you like more of these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. In the next episode, we'll set up our Appwrite project, as well as set up some config, maybe create login and sign up page, and some simple authentication stuff we'll handle. So see you again in the next episode.